Unlike the Custodies of the Dark Angels, the Orks did very well out of their new codex. You could argue a bit too well from a competitive standpoint. They were exceptionally strong, and whilst that wasn't necessarily a bad thing, because it was great we had a codex in which almost every single detachment and unit was usable and good, it was quite obvious that a few things were going to get toned down in the latest dataslate, and that has indeed been the case. There have been a few point increases as well as some fairly significant nerfs to a few units and detachments. So let's take a look at what has changed for the boys in green and just how much of an impact it's going to have on them. Right off the bat, one of the stronger detachments was the Green Tide. This was chiefly because of a particular interaction with one of the detachment rules and how it made certain things like Meganobz quite obnoxious. The old detachment rule of mob mentality meant that your boys units had a 5-up invulnerable save against enemy attacks, and then also on top of that, it also meant that any Orc unit in your army that had 10 or more models also got to reroll saving throws of 1. So this already gave a decent bit of durability to your regular boys, but on Meganobz, which alongside the Raucous Warcaller enhancement could count as being 10 models, so they would also get to reroll 1s, just made them incredibly obnoxious with essentially a 2-up rerollable save against 0 AP attacks. This has now been changed massively, and the new detachment rule instead gives you a 6-up invuln to your boys units, and then when a boys unit contains 10 or more models, that gets a 5-up invuln. So now there is no reroll 1s at all, and the base invuln for your boys is only a 6-up. So all in all, this is a huge hit, not just to your regular boys, but also things like your Meganobz and your Nobs, which were taking advantage of the second half of the rule before. It basically returns this detachment to being the pure Green Tide of regular boys. And then even if you are doing that, they are generally a lot less durable than they were before. It doesn't just end there though, because the detachment also got hit in the form of 2 of its stratagems. Tide of Muscle now gives you +1 to charge, and if your unit has 10 or more models, you can re-roll the charge. This is quite a big hit from the old version, which gave you a bonus to charge based on the battle round. So +1 to charge in battle round 1, all the way up to +5 to charge in battle round 5. So this is a fairly big hit. I do like the fact it now gives you that reroll in bigger squad sizes to kind of make up for it. That definitely does help, and I still think this is a decent stratagem on those big 20-man blobs of boys. It's just definitely not quite as good as before, especially since on your smaller squads or when you go down to under 10 models, it is just a flat out nerf and quite a significant nerf overall. The Go Get 'em stratagem has also caught a fairly big nerf thanks to a small change that instead of going to a flat 6 inches extra if your unit contains 10 or more models after you've been shot by the enemy, you instead now just get to re-roll the d6 distance. So if you get shot by your opponent, you can move your unit d6 inches closer to the closest enemy unit. Previously, if you had 10 or more models, you would just auto move 6 inches, but now it just gives you that reroll, meaning your average of 3.5 goes to around 5 or so. So essentially, if you want the kind of long and short version of this, in a squad of 10 or more, you are basically moving 1 inch less than you were with the old version of this. So 2 fairly significant nerfs to the stratagems and a very big nerf to the detachment rule really does mean that the Green Tide is quite a lot worse than it was before. It still does have some tricks for a huge tide of boys, but I really do think personally other good detachments like the Bully Boys or the Dread Mob will start to edge it out again now in terms of overall competitiveness. The nerfs don't stop there either, because there are also some big points changes that affect not only the boogeymen of the Meganobz, but also some other things that do also hit the Green Tide in an inadvertent way. So the Meganobz get a point bump of 10 points per model, which is massive. It means a squad of 6 goes from a nice 180 points to a whopping 240, essentially costing you most of a support character that would be joining them. Or if you were bringing 3 squads of Meganobz before, this basically cuts out one entire unit from your list. So it is a really nasty increase. And then on top of that, they also gave a slight bump in points to Snickrot, but also the Pain Boss, the Pain Boy, and the Weird Boy. Now, for the Pain Boss, the Pain Boy, and the Weird Boy, it's only a 10-point hike on each, but that does inadvertently make the Green Tide specifically that much worse, because they were quite good for attaching to units of boys to give them some extra durability from that Feel No Pain, or some extra movement from the jump. The 10-point bump alone doesn't make any of those 3 characters unusable, I don't think, but it does just make the whole package of the Green Tide more expensive, less durable, and just harder to fit in everything that you had before. So I really do think this impacts the Green Tide specifically more than any of the other detachments. The Meganobz get an additional and significant nerf in their own datasheet ability of Crumping Time. This previously gave you the ridiculously good 4-up Feel No Pain during the WAAAGH. Now it just gives you a 5-up instead. So all in all, your Meganobz in a Green Tide detachment with the right character and enhancement and buffs could theoretically have gone from a 2-up save, rerolling 1s with a 4-up invuln against shooting and a 4-up Feel No Pain in the WAAAGH, to now having a 2-up save with no rerolls, a 4-up invuln, and a 5-up Feel No Pain, and be 10 points per model pricier for it. So it really is a hefty hit for them, and it does make them, in my opinion, a bit too expensive for what they bring now. The Bully Boys detachment does still let them WAAAGH twice, which is still very, very handy, but an extra 10 points per model for their profile, in addition to their reduced Feel No Pain and the loss of some of their crazy combos in the Green Tide, just feels a bit too much to me. They definitely did need to be nerfed in terms of having access to things like the reroll 1s or the 4-up Feel No Pain, and I think the changes to the mob mentality detachment rule and the changes to Crumping Time ability are both fair, but I think at that stage, if they'd done that, keeping Meganobz at 30 points per model would have been about right. Adding that points bump on top of it just does feel like they've gone too far, because they are decently tanky and they are decently killy, but if you compare them to even something like a Marine Terminator, who also have Deep Strike, the native invuln, better shooting, arguably as good if not better melee, and are cheaper, I just think GW went too far with the Meganobz, just because of how strong all of their combos were when you put them all together. They've just hit them from too many angles and given them that points increase, whilst just 1 or 2 of those nerfs would have probably been sufficient. I mean, I think overall the Orks did need some adjustments, and whilst they are still good in things like the Dread Mob and the Bully Boys, for me the Green Tide has been quite thoroughly gutted, and I think personally it probably falls down to the bottom of the deck in terms of Ork detachments. I would say even things like the Cult of Speed or the big hunt detachments feel more attractive to me anyway now. If you still want to run a massive tide of boys, you of course still can do that, and they do get some benefits from the Green Tide. I just think if any detachment in the codex feels like a bit of a dud now, it is this one. And then on top of that, Meganobz for me fall from being fantastic and bordering on a bit too strong to just being way too expensive for their datasheet now, and I really do think you will see them gone from pretty much any competitive list going forward. So that is the Orks. I was expecting, as I said, some changes and some points increases. I just think GW have laser focused on the Meganobz and the Green Tide too much and hit those specific parts of the codex too strongly when, as I said, they could have gone in with just 1 or 2 of the changes that they've made to the detachment, to the stratagems, to the Meganobz, or to the points, and it probably would have set the codex overall in a still strong, but more balanced, more fair place overall. But as always, what do you make of the changes in this data slate? And will you still be trying out things like the Green Tide or the Meganobz in your lists going forward? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me, but until next time, I'll catch you later, guys.